Hey guys, this is Gaijin Hunter, and you're listening to the Third Fleet podcast. We're in the final moments before the release of Monster Hunter Rise, which means this is the final episode. The final episode before the game is out, that is. If you thought this podcast was going anywhere, you are wrong, because Rurikhan and me are just getting started. Today, we are joined with a very, very special guest and someone who I am a big fan of. Rurikhan, how are you? And why don't you do the honors and introduce our guest?
Doing pretty good, very exhausted, and today we decided that we'd invite Chris over here from Team Darkside. How are you doing, Chris?
Hey guys, doing good. Thanks for having me here on the show. Pretty cool. I'm doing good. Yeah, how are you guys today?
Man, it's so friggin' wild. Go ahead, Gaijin.
I'm doing better than you guys are because you guys have probably been very busy. I, on the other hand, am about to get busy. So
yeah,
it's really good. Are you looking at Rise not from a content creator standpoint, I suppose, this time?
Yes. I mean, I haven't done anything in terms of content creation, I think, much of anything over the last few weeks. So I'm going straight in as a gamer first and a father. And then I'll start going crazy on the creation stuff.
I'm sure it's great for your daughter. You play with her, I guess, that you're not spoiled.
Exactly, because we've been, when we did our Iceborne playthrough over the last month and a half, it's like we get to a cutscene and she knows that I've seen it already. And we're not sharing the moment at all. And it's not the same, So
but it was still nice, right? It was still nice. So imagine like how cool the Rise playthrough will be. If you're going in blindly, both of you guys, that would be cool.
It's going to be perfect. And I think that's the plan here is we want it to be as perfect as it can be. She just graduated today. She's got the next 2 weeks off. I took a week off work. We're both excited. We got the big limited edition with the doggies coming in, the big plushes. It's going to be perfect. I can't wait.
So Chris, you were up until like 4 a.m. last night, your time, right?
Yeah, I had 5 hours of sleep. No, 4.5. I think. So I'm a little bit sleepy, but it's okay. I'm busy making Rise content. Preparing.
I bet you've been doing some very interesting things because I've been noticing in the matchmaking Discord that they had for people who had early access to Rise, and you're just like, guys, Chris the Explorer, I'm trying to find all of the little things that are in the map. It's like, what? I think I got like maybe 3 on the first map and like a couple on the other ones because,
dude,
I have over 100 hours. I have over 100 hours in the game at this point.
Yeah,
and I haven't found all of them.
It's crazy.
Well, don't tell me what it is. Just tell me that there's stuff to find.
Yeah, there's stuff to find. The exploration this game is great. And there's so many secret hidden collectibles, and we're missing one of them right now to make the video. And it's so hard to find. We're looking for hours for this one thing on one map. And at this point where we are right now, we think legitimately Capcom forgot to put it there because we cannot find it. And we searched every corner. At this point where like we want to take the mortar and bomb the entire map down to just find it.
You know what's going to happen, Chris? You know what's going to happen is the game's going to get released in like, I don't know, like half a day from now, right? And someone in like the first 30 minutes is going to tweet out a picture of it saying, what the hell is this thing? And you're going to be like, what the
Like there's this one cave we found, and it looks perfect for the last secret like collectible, but it's just not there. Maybe they have to patch it in or something. I don't know. I'm really convinced it's missing. But yeah, maybe the people find it.
It is possible because there is a day one patch that's like 600 megabytes, which is coming up.
I see.
And if you want to go online, you have to download the patch. I don't know whether your guys' copies include that, but it is worth noting if you want to go online, if you get the game, you are going to have to download that patch.
I'm pretty sure we already have that patch. That's 1.1.1. That's the
it's
patch
one more
that
feature
enables...
for version 2. We're going to get the 1.1.2 added item that was frustrating TDS.
That's the patch that enables amiibos and stuff like that, which we already have in the game as well.
So I will set this. If you guys can't already tell, this is a very special episode. Obviously, we're on the cusp of the release of Monster Hunter Rise. So, as you guys probably already know if you've been following them, because Chris and Rurikhan have been putting out great content, and they've got tons of stuff planned, but they have been already playing the game. I have not. So it's kind of a fun little, swap of the tables, right? Like I used to play all the games in Japan before they came out in the West. Now you guys have played it. I haven't. So this is going to be a fun episode to really talk to you guys, get your thoughts and feelings about things as you're playing it from the perspective of someone who hasn't. And I'll put this out here for those of you who are worried. There's not going to be any spoilers in this podcast. We're not going to go into any specifics on things that Capcom have not already detailed. Maybe some minor stuff about mechanics, but nothing that's like story or monster or anything like, really spoiler related. If you insist on listening to it later, we understand. But otherwise, we'll do our best to keep this pretty safe. So strap in, get a cup of coffee, and should be a fun one. So I have to ask, if you guys don't mind me asking, but do you know how many hours you've already put into the game?
I do. But Chris, you take us in.
I think 80. I wish I could have played more, but 80 is good for me right now. Yeah.
I'm slightly north of 100 right now. and this is like very close after I've finished the game. So like it took me around 100 hours to finish. You can do it significantly faster, but pretty much whenever I saw something that I was like, "Ooh, I like this set. I like this thing." Boom, go craft that thing. Just like go grind that monster into the dirt and then boom, craft it. And I just kept doing that over and over. There was a point where I was like, I think I'm like 3 mobs away from the final boss. But there's this set that I want to craft, and then it's like 5 hours more crafting a new set instead of going after the final boss. It's insane.
Well, you guys, I understand because of my participation in early access for World, it can be a little exhausting because it's exciting. There's so much to do, and you kind of want to. You also want to help out people, so you're trying to figure stuff out at the same time, and there's no help online because no one else is playing it.
But I really appreciate it as well in a way, because if you get the game a little bit earlier, you have the time to sit down, just take a handful of days to just play the game first, not worry too much about content creation, and then once you're done, once you played 50 hours, let's say 5 days, 10 hours every day, it's a lot. Then you are at a certain point, and then you can start worrying more about content creation. So you do have more time, and I really appreciate getting early access from Capcom. It's really nice.
Yeah, it's really cool of them to do that. This one I was a little worried about because Rise it feels like such a love letter to Japan, where I think World and Iceborne felt like a love letter to the West. I was a little afraid whether or not they were going to tailor the marketing more towards the Japan, because they really did that for the West, I think, with the World and Iceborne. But this time they're doing a really good job of keeping it really clean around the table when it comes to access for global audiences, which is just awesome. So I would say the Western audience has earned the right to be a first-class citizen when it comes to release territory for Monster Hunter, and that's thanks to everybody supporting it, which is great.
Yeah. It's great that the game does so well now in the West.
Yeah,
let's hope that Rise will be also better than for Ultimate, but we'll see. It's going to be interesting to see.
I think it's gonna so good.
It's one of those things that I never want to go back to a time where Japan gets it like 1 year in advance, and us in the West are just like sitting over here sucking on our thumbs, just like, oh well, or importing in Japanese copies, which, in my opinion, is not the ideal way of doing it because I don't know how to speak Japanese, so it could, I basically don't get story, I don't get anything out of it if you do it like that, but.
I've been thinking about this for a while, and one of the things that came to my head was I always said, why would they wait, right? And I'm thinking, okay, someone's in the global office for Capcom or somewhere in publishing saying, no, you can't release the same game twice. You can't do like the Monster Hunter 4 and then the Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate. You can't do that. Sales strategy doesn't work in the West, which is an argument I've heard for a long time. And I was like, well, it's not a really big deal, but looking at people's reaction to like, wait a second, is Iceborne going to be a separate purchase? And then everyone's totally worried about it. And then when they found out it was DLC, it was like, oh, okay. Like I'm good with that. Like it's not, you're not charging me $80 for the game plus expansion again, which is how it used to be. So maybe they were right. Maybe it would have been a really hard sell for the West to do that type of strategy. But I think we're out of those woods. I don't think they're ever doing that again. I don't see how they could.
To do an Ultimate game separately?
Yeah, I don't think they'll do it separately.
I mean,
That's what they always
technically-
used to do.
Technically speaking, they did the game separately. The difference was that they also gave you the option to buy the DLC because when
Yeah, for
Iceborne
cheaper,
came
right?
out, you had the Master Edition, which is essentially one of the ultimate versions.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Well,
the DLC,
yeah, but
I
you
mean,
had the option to get cheaper.
Yeah.
I guess it's just also due to technical advancements where nowadays you can offer a DLC. It wasn't possible back in the day.
Exactly.
With 3DS
3DS would
times
be very
even.
hard.
So it just makes sense, I guess, to do that.
So I gotta ask you a question, Chris. You guys basically do a lot of like speed runnings and crazy challenges and stuff. How do you think that Rise is going to do in that field? Because we've talked about the more casual side of things, and me and Gaijin tend to speak a lot about, taking your time and not really caring that much about going fast. But you guys in Team Darkside, you guys are all about the speed. So how do you think that's going to work out for Rise with the mechanics and stuff that are in place right now?
I think it works out great. Honestly, speedruns look amazing with the wire bug. You're jumping around at the beginning, taking the little routes to get some wire bugs, to get some certain buff items. And ultimately, the wire bug is really OP in speedruns, I feel like, because you can just, evade through the screams. You can... if you see, we do a lot of testing right now, and speedruns are looking really good so far in Rise.
Stylish, then, right?
Yeah, stylish.
I'm particularly curious about the Wyvern riding mechanic because I felt like that was a concern with the speedrunning community because you have to kind of like stop your hunt. There's no option to like, I don't want to ride the monster. No, you triggered it and now you have to ride it and slam it into a wall 3 times or slam it into another monster. How are you guys handling that?
Yeah, it's definitely a key part of every speedrun because it does a lot of damage. So you'll see, the speedrunner mounting the Wyvern, the monster, wall slamming it 3 or 4 times and keep hacking and slashing. But to me, yes, it's both cool and at the same time, I'm not sure about it because it does feel a little bit. It doesn't feel like a Monster Hunter mechanic in a way. It's very different from what we're used to, in my opinion. It's very different,
Yeah, it's pretty surreal, right? Just puppeteering a monster.
Yeah, it's really really crazy. But at the same time, I think it's also it's cool if they experiment new things, and sometimes things work out and they stick around, I guess, and sometimes they don't, like the Clutch Claw. So we'll have to see how people like it in the full game. Ultimately, yeah, it's part of every speedrun as well, and. Yeah, well, you guys are gonna see soon.
Yeah,
he's already got a video in the works.
So, Chris, I specifically want to ask you this one. I don't know whether you guys have done enough testing, or I just want to get your gut feeling. But I've seen a common concern from some people saying that I think the Palamutes are going to be what everyone uses because they're just faster to move around. But I have to assume after playing the demo enough and using the wire bugs that once you unlock side camps, I think you can probably get to a monster just as fast without a dog than with a dog. Is that correct? Is that how you feel? Or do you think that dogs have a speed advantage?
It depends on the map and on the monster spawn. Some monster spawns are so close to subcamp, you don't need the dog. But sometimes a monster spawns in some cave or something where you do have to at least use the dog for some section of the path to get to the monster. But there's also obviously the height changes in terrain and maps where if you have to wirebug a lot around, obviously the dog is actually not as good as just using your wirebugs. So it really depends on the monster spawn. The dog will definitely be used, even with the subcamps, because there's not that many subcamps in general, and the maps are pretty big. And the maps are definitely designed, in my opinion, to use the Palamutes. They're really large maps, so far, we are using 1 Palamute and 1 Palico. If that changes to 2 Palamutes in the future, I'm not sure. Well, we'll have to see, really. Yeah.
That's good to hear. Still, there are solid pros and cons. I guess outside of, I don't think you'll be at a huge disadvantage if you were to go with just a cat online and you knew your terrain really well.
Yeah, it depends. If you want to take your time, I mean, you can the Palicos have something else, which they're really good. They collect a lot of items, way more than Palamutes. I don't think it's too much of a spoiler to tell people.
No,
But
that's
it's
good to know.
really good to bring at least one Palico. I also make a video which we published later today. I made a video where I explain that as well. It's like a tips video where I say it's good to bring one Palamute because you get around fast, and it's really good to bring one Palico because it gathers a lot of stuff, even large monster materials. It's really, really nice.
So you're telling me when I go in with 2 cats, I'm just gonna be balling it. I'm gonna have tons of materials. I'm gonna be swimming and stuff.
Right. You're going to be swimming in materials, but you'll be swimming slow. You'll be swimming slow on the maps, you know?
a slow swim.
Yeah.
It's like the hunters come back. They're all like, "We're back. Wait, where's Gaijin?" And he comes busting their room half a minute later with all this shit in his hand, like, "Hey guys."
Actually, I think that there's one very special thing about the Palamutes, even if you're not super concerned about speed, and that is the convenience of Palamute sharpening. You're just like, I need to sharpen. I'm just going to start riding my Palamute right in the middle of combat and just, run around the monster while I'm sharpening. And the monsters, I don't think I've seen a single monster that could do anything about that. You just you ride your Palamute, you sharpen, there's nothing they can do about it, which is one thing that I called out in the demo. I thought that was very, very overpowered, that you can just call this in, sharpen, not even an issue.
Well, here's a really weird question, because I know how it felt in the demo, but I'm curious now that you guys have the game. There's an option in the settings to change the length in which you need to hold down the button to call the dog to ride it. You could do like a short press or a long press. Have you noticed any difference between those? Is there some meta involved with which one is more faster or convenient?
I put it on the fastest setting because there are times where you'll call your Palamute, but he's either wounded or something, so he won't come to you. So you have to run to him if you want to get a quick ride. And, just being able to just tap the button a little bit faster makes it easier. But at the same time, there are problems when it comes to Rampage because of the installations. A lot of times I was trying to remove installations and I would end up riding the Palamute. Like that. I wish there was maybe a different button input or something. Because the installation
that's why you bring cats. You don't need a dog in a Rampage. Bring the cats.
You wouldn't have that problem for sure. But you're actually right. Yeah. Maybe I shouldn't bring the Palamutes to Rampage.
Yeah, because you don't need to run around fast in a Rampage, right?
Yeah.
No, not really.
But I guess the Palamutes do more damage there, and I'm not even sure if the Palicos gather that much on the Rampage. I haven't really paid attention to that specifically.
I'm giving you guys ideas of stuff to test.
Yeah. So that's right.
So have you guys been playing primarily in like docked mode or portable or a mix of both? I'm kind of curious. Just docked for you. Okay. Have you played it all portably?
I have. I've done both because I have my studio space, which is not in my home. So I would record and do stuff in the studio, and then I just take the console home at night, and I would just play a little bit in the house. And what I've noticed from portable mode is that I think it still has, because this was something that I noticed on the demo as well, has a little bit better performance in portable mode. And it definitely looks better on the smaller Switch screen than it does stretched out across a TV. But, there's not, I wouldn't say that there's a massive difference, slightly better performance, but that's about it.
I suppose because it's upscales to 1080p probably, right?
Yeah.
And 1080p is definitely quite more pixels compared to maybe Breath of the Wild was only 900p, I think, on the big screen.
Yeah, actually, Digital Foundry just published a video in the last 24 hours where they covered the resolution for the game. And it's somewhere like 950 or something like that. I think it was.
Oh,
it was like five. It was like
then
it was like 540. I think for portable actually, but it's such a small screen you wouldn't notice. Yeah.
Oh, it's not 720p. Okay.
Yeah, so it's 540 on port. That it's probably 960 because I think that's usually the resolution they go for whenever it reaches. But
just so people know, the difference between output resolution and render resolution is a thing. So. It doesn't look fuzzy or anything. Like you guys don't notice it looking soft or fuzzy or anything, right? It looks good, right?
I mean, to me, it looks fine. I didn't really have a problem with it. I already said I think the game looks gorgeous, and not just for a Switch game. I think it actually just looks really good, period.
Yeah, I think it has. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm often usually very critical on the graphics side of things.
Then go at it.
I think it has its good things and its bad things about graphics. I mean, sometimes I do think maps look a little bit washed out. I like two maps in particular a lot. The lava caverns, I love them, and I love the sandy plains. But I'm not that big of a fan of the flood and forest. I just wish the colors were more vibrant. For me, it's a bit grayish. The shrine ruins is the same. I feel like almost that the colors in Ultimate and Generations Ultimate to me on the Switch and the Wii U looked almost better a little bit in a way. Obviously, the maps are like now open world, no more loading screens. The exploring is way better than it's ever been. The exploring might even be better than in World when it comes to the maps. So I think both has its pros and cons for me personally.
I think that the more washed out colors is kind of like a consequence of the more realistic look. Because when you're looking at like a game like Generations Ultimate, they're not really thinking about realism. You know, your character looks the way that it looks, and they don't care. But due to the way that World worked, it seems to me like they tried making the Switch games also look a little bit more realistic, more believable.
Yeah, but I'm not sure I kind of prefer an anime cartoony look. I love Breath of the Wild or Mario Odyssey on the Switch. It looks amazing in its art style. I'm not sure if I want a world graphics approach on the Switch. You know?
See, imagine this. This is something that I keep telling people, and very few people actually agree with me, Chris. But imagine Monster Hunter Stories art style and Monster Hunter Rise.
Would be interesting to see. Yeah, for sure. I'd go with it. Yeah. I think
it's good to hear that you guys
about it on Twitter as well at some point, and we talked about the same topic where also 2.6 felt like it would have been nice to maybe experiment with like more a cartoony style, like Wind Waker, for example. You know, it looks really nice in a way, but yeah, it's not bad. Of course, I'm just nitpicky here, you know.
Yeah, well, it's okay. I think it's a good thing to have certain areas that you care more about and are more scrutinized for. I think that's fine. But how about performance-wise? Do you feel that the game performs well? Like, because I know it's unfortunately caps out at 30. I know there's some dips here and there, but overall, have you noticed performance holding up pretty solid? Like nothing. No major issues or anything?
For me, no. I mean, at the beginning, I did have to get used to the 30 FPS coming from World on PC. So at the beginning, it felt a bit rough, but you get used to the 30 FPS so fast. And honestly, even though I'm usually nitpicky in this regard as well, I don't think it's an issue. The game plays really well in 30 FPS, and you get used to it fast. So I wouldn't worry about that, unless you're like a user that plays usually on 240 hertz at home. This might be a little shock at first, but
yeah. I think because the frame pacing and stuff is really good. So yeah, your eyes adjust after like 30 minutes. It all starts to look smooth again for some weird. It's so weird how the brain does that.
There's just one area that I noticed that it did feel a little bit jarring. And that is this is like one very small section of one of the maps, which is in the flooded forest. There's a cave that's got a bunch of like bioluminescence, and there's water on the ground. So there's reflections. There's a lot of stuff going on. And I remember at one point I was fighting a Royal Ludruth in there, and the frames just like, I think I might have dipped below 20 at some points, but that was literally the only instance that I've had an issue with. And I've noticed that other monsters didn't have as big of a problem there. So I don't know what
That's
happened.
interesting.
Sponge Boy, huh?
That's interesting, because now that you mention this, I also it reminds me of the beta or the demo where we also experience frame drops, and that is particularly if you play with 4 players and if you do 4 Helmbreakers at the same time, the game goes down to like 5 FPS.
Hey, but can you blame the game? There's so much crap to process at that point.
Yeah, you're not supposed to do that, I suppose. But 4 Helmbreakers at the same time, it completely crashes. For Peppo, the demo even completely, it crashed, it shut down.
Wow.
The game crashed after 4 Helmbreakers. Yeah.
That long sword too strong, it breaks the game. Literally.
Now I'm curious, what weapon did you use to play through the game, Chris?
Charge Blade. I love the condensed spinning slash. It's so good. Oh my god.
Charge Blade, okay. Did you use that for like the majority of what you've been playing so far?
Yeah, I use it all the time. It's basically similar to Savage Axe, but it's it doesn't consume that many files anymore, so you can charge the files as you use the axe mode. Basically, as you consume files, you can also charge at the same time. So if you use it properly, you don't run out of files, even though you are constantly in axe mode, which is very interesting. And at the same time, the way it works with the hit lag, it's very satisfying to slash through the monsters, and you notice the axe just hit lagging.
I love the
That's
sound
really
effects.
cool.
The sound effects sound really cool. So
Yeah.
I'm curious, without giving any spoilers away, does that unlock rather early in the game, or is that something you won't get until much later? So is that something that people who want to jump in and they start playing, are they going to get that relatively early or no?
Yeah. Do you unlock these switch skills? I think in low rank.
Okay, that's good to know. So people aren't like going to be waiting forever to get all the different switch skills or anything.
There's
like
one NPC in particular you have to that gives you a lot of quests for switch skills. Some of them are in high rank, I think, but this in particular was not high rank
that.
because
Okay, so it's kind of a drip, right, of things to look forward to as you play.
I think there's
Yeah.
one set of switch skills, if I remember correctly, Rurikhan. Maybe you can confirm this. One set of switch skills you get in it through high rank quests in the hub, but you
Yes.
do get other ones before that.
There's very early on they just give you like one switch skill for all the weapons, and then there's an unlock condition that is going to be. I'm not sure that I should mention about that one in the podcasts, but we'll eventually make guides talking about that, and that will be something that you have to do for each individual weapon, and then closer to the ending of the game, you're going to start getting quests every so often where they're like, okay. You do this quest, you get the skill for the charge blade. You do this quest, you get the skill for the gun lance, and so on and so forth.
14 quests, 14 weapons. It's high rank then.
Yeah. Do you guys like it that way, or do you wish that they sort of had the switch skills all unlocked at the beginning of the game?
It's like, for me, thinking about it now, right? If I was to play through the game again, which I'm going to, it's like I want to have all the switch skills from the get-go, but when I was playing for the first time, I thought that was a better way of doing it because it kept the weapon fresh. Usually when I play through a Monster Hunter game, I tend to I'll play a little bit of my main weapon and then I'm like, okay, I get how my main weapon works. Now let me try something else. Whereas this way, I constantly felt like, oh, no, there's a new thing. And I'm going to keep using my weapon. And then, oh, there's this other new thing, particularly with the gun lens, because you have the 3 different shelling styles. And the weapon stayed fresh the entire experience because I was constantly trying out new things and experimenting with different stuff for the weapon, which I think that's actually the better way of doing it, regardless of the fact that, everybody just wants to get their switch skills as fast as possible. It kept things fresh for me and trying out new things throughout the experience.
I agree. Yeah. I think I also like it better this way.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool to know. So I guess, and then Rory, you've been playing the bow the entire time, right?
Yeah, bow and longsword, pretty much. Yeah, the entire experience.
They're both so good. They're both so good in the game. Yeah.
So here's a controversial. I have a very. I want to get into some controversy here and get some takes from you guys, which is obviously when they do a demo, it's not fully balanced yet. They're going to be doing tweaking. In fact, looking at World and Iceborne, they did tweaking even after the game was released, right? Like they would get community feedback on, I think it was slicing shots were knocking the crap out of people, so they changed those, and so I don't think that the way the weapons are now is exactly how they're always going to be. But for a launch condition, what did you feel about the weapon balancing? I guess you can only speak truly to the weapon that you've played in the game, but did it feel like they tuned it right? Did it feel on spot, or did you feel that they went overboard or not enough? What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's gonna. I can definitely give some thoughts, but obviously we're gonna see as soon as the game launches officially, and we see all the other speedrunners uploading their runs. That's where we see basically best how balancing works in this game.
I see.
So far, it seems that they have made another set of adjustments since the second demo. And we definitely noticed that some weapons definitely outperform some other weapons based on our experience in TDS.
Yeah. I was hearing some tones of disappointment that perhaps the hunting horn was toned down a little too much.
Yeah.
But I guess we'll have to wait until Amadeus gets his hands and starts crushing things to see how big.
Oh,
of a
he
difference
has
it really
already.
was.
He has already. Yeah. That's true, unfortunately. Yeah, he's very emotional about it, and I understandably because they remade Hunting Horn so much. It's such an amazing new experience, and people love it. We see that the usage was really high in the demo, and it was also a very good weapon in the demo against Magna Malo. It got one of the fastest times, if I remember correctly. But that seems to be a bit different because the weapon got nerfed across the board when it comes to the full game. And we noticed some weapons definitely are stronger than Hunting Horn now. And we have to see. We hope that Capcom does make another set of adjustments.
Yeah.
To balance it out.
Is the longsword too powerful? Yes or no? What do you think? Or is it?
We'll have to wait until Peppo shows us, But it seems to be really good because the Yai Spirit Slash, they have made it so good. It's crazy. There's not even a comparison to Iceborne. Whereas the Helmbreaker they nerfed the Helmbreaker, so it's a bit lower on the damage side. But the Yai Spirit Slash, you can just spam it if you know the monster attacks well, to the point that you can comfortably pull off the Yai Spirit Slashes all the time. Longsword is really, really good.
Hunt doing that, yeah.
Yeah,
that's interesting. I found it really weird that in the demo, I'm not a longsword user at all, but in the demo, I was able to pull off the Spirit Slash very comfortably, but I would still miss with the Foresight every time. So. Maybe it's just the Lancer inside of me. Maybe the timing is just buried in where it's different. But
the timing of those two moves is significantly different, though. Like I think the Foresight Slash, you have to do it much more in advance, right, Chris, than the Yai.
I mean, these specifics, I'm going to have to tell you, you should have invited Peppo to the podcast. But I can just say that Longsword is definitely really good in this game. And one more interesting thing about which people don't know yet, which is not a spoiler though, not really, is that Quick Sheath is incredibly good for Longsword this time around. It makes Longsword so fast. They increase the Quick Sheath speed.
The special sheath.
Yeah, the special sheath too, and the normal sheath. They increase the speed from Iceborne, the speed that you would gain from the skill by like 3 to 5 times. It's crazy. It's really good.
Yeah,
I like that. That sounds really good.
I've noticed that some of the skills definitely feel much more exaggerated in their effect. Like a very easy thing that I use a lot is Evade Extender. Dude, Evade Extender 3 sends you to the friggin' moon every time you do like a long back hop on the gun lance. I'm just like, see ya! It's like completely insane. I get so much dodge power out of the gun lance that I don't even think that I need guard that much anymore because I can just get out of the way of most of the attacks because of Evade Extenders. So yeah, most skills that have like those effects that before seemed a little bit more subtle, like even Evade Extender, if you put Evade Extender 3 and you would compare it to no Evade Extenders, like, yeah, there's a difference, but it's not like a super massive difference. In Rise, the difference is really friggin' massive. It's insane.
That's good.
It's interesting. Well, hopefully they tweak some skills so that there's, people are using a lot of different skills and
experimenting with new stuff. Yeah, I agree. But
I like the point that you're bringing up though. It's an interesting point that it's less about the average hunters like myself, where the difference may not be so clear when it comes to tuning and stuff like that. But it's the speedrunners when you take people who are masters in their art. That's when the changes get exaggerated and magnified so you can really see what's going on under the hood when it comes to how they compare. It's an interesting
That's one thing. And it's also, we have it seems to us that Capcom did some changes to the balancing based on how well weapons were performing against Magna Malo in the demo. But there is something to consider. I'm not sure how much they considered it, where some weapons, they do really well in a demo scenario where you don't need specific skills, and some weapons do really poorly, like bow, where you need a certain amount of skills to make the weapon shine. Hunting Horn doesn't need it as much as bow, for example. And so it seems to us that based on how well a weapon was doing against Magna Malo in a matchup, which is not really a situation like the full game, and they used that to tweak weapons, which made some weapons a lot stronger now that benefit from armor skills, and some weapons a little weaker that don't really need that much.
Which weapon would you say? I mean, we know that the Hunting Horn was nerfed, but it looks like you're talking about other weapons as well. Like, can you give us an example?
Bow seems really strong right now.
Mm.
I mean,
I
we'll see.
I saw
Obviously,
that. I saw
I'm
some.
not sure.
I saw some saucy footage from VJump, the Japanese media. They did a 20-minute video where they were showing off using a bunch of the Switch skills, and they showed off. It was the first time I got to see the bow's counter. It's like an evade move that does a counter instead of doing like the charge sidestep, and it looks so damn good. And it was
It's so
pumping out
stylish.
like good damage. I was just like, damn. I can't wait to see speedrunners with these weapons. It's going to be so stylish.
Yeah, it's gonna look cool. Yeah, for sure. I mean, Rurikhan, you played a lot of bow as well, right? So-
No, I didn't. That was a joke.
Oh, right.
He hates the bow.
I fell for it.
I don't really like bow or longsword that much.
He's a gun
I was
lancer.
laughing when Gaijin was asking about weapons because my contribution is like, haha, gun lance go brrr, because that's the only thing I played for the whole game. I pretty much haven't touched any other weapon except for recording some extra footage for my review. I recorded a little bit of Sword and Shield, and good God, Sword and Shield, so good. Both the gun lance and the Sword and Shield, which are my favorite weapons, they're just looking so incredibly good for Monster Hunter Rise that it's just blowing me away. Did you try out the gun lance at all?
No, but I've seen you like fly around in your review like all the time, you know, like a rocket.
Aerial style.
Yeah. It looks pretty cool.
It's so fun. Like, and it's interesting because even Eric's put out a tweet yesterday saying, I guess I'm a gun lance main now. Because you can chain blast dashes 3 times. So you can basically blast dash, and you can change directions midway. So if a monster turns a corner, and I've done this, I can chase him with blast dash and then make 90-degree turn with blast dash in the air and then finish that with a slam for a full burst. It is insane.
See, you don't need a palamute. Yeah, you don't need a palamute anymore. You've got a gun lance.
Exactly.
You just can't sharpen, right?
I am Valstrax. And actually I can sharpen because I have guard edge. That's the thing. I can even sharpen while I block. It's so damn good.
Oh, I didn't know about the skill.
Yeah, the guard edge, basically you get a counter, and basically it puts your shield up, and if the monster hits you, it's a very tight window, but if the monster hits you while you're doing that, it sharpens your weapon, and it opens you up for 2 counters. I can then slam into full burst, or I can do a very quick worm stake. Like, the gun lance is a top-notch weapon. I actually think they might nerf it. It's that powerful. I think it might be too powerful.
Well, there's not that many people who use it. I mean, I don't mean that in a mean way, right? Like the lance is both the gun lance and the lance, right? Exactly. I think you're safe because the less people that use it, it seems it'll be more safe because they keep buffing the hunting horn because no one used it. And now you're saying, you see too many people using it in the demo, and now they're after it. It's like you gotta hide, you gotta be quiet, people. You gotta when you find something really good, you need to shut up and don't talk about it.
Yeah. Don't talk about it in the podcast anymore from now on, okay?
Yeah.
It's just a dirty secret, Like, oh, this is
Chris,
so good.
Listen, Team Darkside can't use the gun lance. You guys will break the game.
Yes, this that one nerf it. So what?
I can't wait to see like the 4 worm stakes from Team Darkside, just like spamming worm stakes super fast.
Yeah, we're
Chris,
working. Actually, my team they made a 4-player Gunlance speedrun yesterday.
No,
but an Iceborne,
Iceborne, okay.
Don't get too excited just yet, because we're still working on some Iceborne videos at the same time as well. But we will see. I mean, if you want, we can for now just focus on the other weapons. So
yes.
your baby doesn't get nerfed.
Exactly.
Yes.
It's not just.
So I'm gonna do a small little sidestep just in case, on the very off chance that someone listening to this podcast is not ultra familiar with Team Darkside. But how many members do you guys have in the team right now?
Oh, it's difficult to say. It's also official members, I would say a little over 10 now, because we also count the 2 Japanese members that we have and the 2 Chinese members, because we translate all of our content to Japanese on YouTube, and then we have also the Chinese channel on Bilibili that we have. So with those, we're a little over 10.
Do you have representation for all 14 weapons are represented by someone who masters them, or no? Is there like one that you guys are just missing? It's like
Yeah. Pretty much nobody plays in Sick Life. I mean, yeah, I played it so much for Ultimate. I loved the weapon, but nowadays I don't speedrun that much anymore because my teammates, they're so good at it, and because we have become such a big team, my everyday work has shifted a little bit, and I'm not actually speedrunning that much anymore. So Insect Life is always our weakest side, and there's so many people always in the comment section. When do you guys make an Insect Life video? And I'm like, well, where is the Insect Life speedrunners? We need a new team member. I guess.
we've got an upcoming star who we're training. So my daughter Yuna is a Insect Life main.
I told you she's gonna join Team Darkside.
Maybe that's.
But now she's saying she's gonna jump back to bow because she kind of misses it a little bit. When now she's gonna find out that bow is really powerful, then gosh, I don't know what's gonna happen.
My disappointment is immeasurable, and my day is ruined, Gaijin.
I'll tell you though, Chris, like the fact that you guys are translating the videos and you even have I don't know if it's automatic or I'm assuming you guys prepare the video titles in Japanese as well for YouTube. My daughter is a huge fan of you guys.
That's nice to hear. Yeah.
And she watches your videos constantly, and she does all of your. Oh yeah, and
it's just the gun runs.
Mostly the gun runs, but she's watched your other ones as well, and then she wants to mimic it. So
really?
she must have saw something you guys did with bow guns, because the other day she's like, I made a heavy bow gun. I'm like, why? She's like, spread 3, baby. I'm like, what's going on here?
Oh, really? Yeah, we did a few ones of those in the past. Yeah.
And no, I actually have a small list of questions from Yuna to ask you specifically because she's a fan of yours.
Here we go.
For sure,
Which might be fun to do a quick little step here before I forget about it. She also loves doing the thing that you do in the video where you sometimes you'll be shaking your chair. I don't know if that's something you do on stream, but she really likes that.
Like I do that usually when I do challenges on Twitch, where I try to beat the game without taking any damage or something like this. And then whenever something really crazy happens, like I beat the flagship, where I beat the final boss, and it feels very emotional, then I know I try to exaggerate it a little bit, and then I sometimes just shake my chair into the camera, and people kind of like it, I guess. So yeah.
Yeah, but your video titles are in Japanese, and so she found them really fast, and she became a fan. But I guess this is kind of answered already, maybe. But she said it's not specific to Rise, but she was just curious overall what your favorite weapon was, because she doesn't know.
I mean, in Rise, it's definitely Charge Blade so far. In World, I would also say Charge Blade. I really loved it ever since they added all the mobility moves to it. But in the old games, it was Great Sword. Yeah.
Dude, that sliding slash gives the weapon so much mobility. Like I used to tell people, even in World, I would say, guys, you think sword and shield is fast? Like, no. Listen. Sliding slash, that's fast.
Yeah.
So she was curious, how many hours do you have in World Iceborne? And she's
difficult
like,
to say, because I played on PlayStation first and then on PC later. I would say definitely over 2,000 at this point. So,
that's awesome.
Yeah. A lot. I would say World is now my top 3 most played games. Top 4 together with Try Ultimate, and For Ultimate. All are around the 2,000 mark.
Damn.
It's a lot of time.
Yeah.
Especially when you consider just like I know personally firsthand, like the amount of time not playing the game that you're still playing the game, like the thinking game, the testing, the creation, it just consumes you. It becomes like you live the game.
Yeah, I mean, now obviously the time that I spent in the game has changed a lot. Back when in Monster Hunter Try, it was 2010, I was 15 or 16 years old, and I learned English in this game pretty much.
Oh, wow.
And I spent so much time in this game chilling with friends. Monster Hunter Try was like a social media. It was, you could send DMs to people. You were just hanging out. You checked your friend list, who was online. There was no Skype or Discord at the time yet, where people were literally just chatting in the game. And it was so immersive, and it was such a fun time. And I have still the best memories and a lot of nostalgia from this game. And this was obviously a totally different time. I was still in school. I didn't have any responsibilities. And now it has changed so much, where I'm just thinking about content creation as a focus mainly. And it's very interesting, yeah.
I actually have an interesting question, which is actually it's a 2-parter. First, which one was your first Monster Hunter game? And second, did it instantly click for you, or was it like me and Gaijin? Because when we initially played Monster Hunter, neither of us liked it.
In Interesting. Yeah. So the first time I saw it was a friend of mine called Max. He sat in school bus next to me, and he played on the PSP. I think it was Freedom 2 or Freedom Unite. And I saw his gameplay against Diablos, and he had a hammer, and I was like, what is this weird bally thing on his back? You know, I was so confused. It looked really weird to me. And I tried it out a little bit on the PSP, and it just didn't feel for me. It didn't click at all. It was so weird. But then...
Go ahead. Sorry.
It's like for you, is it the same?
Yeah, it was the same thing. It was the exact same thing. For me and Gaijin, we both played it, and neither of us liked it. And it was kind of the same idea. Like, I started with try, and I'm just like trying to play the game, and I'm like, this is clunky as hell. I don't understand what is going on. And I came from Dark Souls, right? So I'm coming out of Dark Souls and playing Monster Hunter Try, and I'm just like, no, none of this.
Really? Because when I played, because for me it was a bit different, because then I had a Wii because of Zelda, Twilight Princess, and a bunch of other games. And they announced Monster Hunter Try, and I was following this Nintendo kind of channel within the Wii. There was like an app where you could follow a news channel. I don't remember what it was called anymore, but I was following vividly these news videos where they were introducing all the monsters for Try, and they were going about the ecology, and it all felt so nice, and the graphics were so cool back compared to the PSP. The graphics looked amazing. And so I decided to pick it up when it came out, and I played it on the Wii, and it instantly clicked with me. And when I finished through the village, I started getting into online afterwards. And online was literally, this is what hooked me big time. And I got really addicted really fast. And yeah, here I am today, still doing this.
The rest is history, yes.
Yeah.
That's a good story. So here's a funny question for you. So she was curious in one of your videos for Iceborne Gone Wrong, you ate a banana in a very funny way. And you were wrestling with the banana, and you had the Rajang music, and she was wondering, do you actually eat bananas like that, or do you eat them more traditionally?
Sometimes. So, sometimes it's so hard to just get the top part off, because it's the banana's really like the outside is really thick.
Yeah,
it's really hard to rip it off. So sometimes when I can't rip it off there, or like just open it at this point, and I would almost, it would be dangerous to almost crush the banana accidentally because I have to put too much force on it.
Yeah.
Then I would just take it in the middle, wrap the force like evenly around the banana, and then just try to pull it this way. So it just honestly, it's a great tip. I mean. And
I have to try it out.
Maybe it's just the German bananas there, just thick. I'm not sure what that, but sometimes I do. Yeah, it's not just fake.
It is possible. I definitely noticed that fruits are very different depending on the country that you're in. Like whether how sweet, how tough, or what. It's very different. So
I feel like I need to illustrate it. One sec. I'm gonna bring a banana. One sec, guys.
Those thick German bananas. What the hell? What kind of question is that? That's so weird. I haven't seen this. I'm so curious. So he twists the banana from the middle? Okay, here we go.
So I'm back. And see, like at this point, I think this one's easy because it's a bit brown here.
Yeah.
I can easily open it here.
Yeah.
But sometimes they're green still here, and sometimes this part is really tough. So then if you evenly do this and just go like this, it works really nicely. So
okay.
Yeah, so Rurikhan, you probably haven't seen it then, but he had very comically put Rajang's theme song on when he was doing it.
You monster! Who eats bananas like that?
Yeah.
I love it.
For the stream, Gaijin, I put the Rajang music because it fits really well.
Dun,
The
dun,
monkey with
dun,
the banana.
dun.
Yeah.
Dun, dun, dun.
And then I
Classic.
try to entertain my Twitch stream as good as possible,
I see you'd be streaming when I'm still asleep, so I don't get to see a lot of you guys stream. So I really enjoy the highlights. It's quite fun.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man.
She was quite curious about who your favorite monster is, if you have a favorite or just a monster that is usually one of your favorites.
Yeah, Alatron and Devil Joe, I would say. I like them a lot, yeah. And I think I liked Alatron both in the old games and Try. I love to use Greatsword and Hammer against Alatron, but now I think
Hammer versus Greatsword, yeah.
it was so much fun back in the day, but it was a tough monster with some weapons, in my opinion. But nowadays in Iceborne, they changed it so much and they improved the monster so much. I'm really happy how they remade it.
Yeah.
And it's a great fight. Honestly, I really love Elatrion. And Devil Joe, I always found this monster so cool and so terrifying. And I love the dinosaur approach in Monster Hunter so much. I loved it ever since. And whenever there's a really brutal dinosaur T-Rex or T-Rex, I was saying T-Rex.
Yeah.
T-Rex looking monster, I'm down.
So here's a question for you, because I was showing Yuna off some of my favorite monsters, but in Generations Ultimate versus how they are in Iceborne. And one of the major things of the difference was Savage Devil Joe. In Iceborne didn't feel nearly as dangerous.
Yes.
As he felt in. We got somebody here.
Oh, Yuna making an appearance. You guys can't see it on the podcast, but Yuna is here.
Chair shake. Nice. Very nice. She's doing it really good, actually.
Gambare,
Yeah.
Yuna!
That's how it works.
Yes, you guys can't see it, but Yuna just decided to crash and say hi to Chris and did a good chair shake.
Very nice.
Let's get it. So she was okay, no, that's a great answer. I was going to ask, like, Savage Devil Joe, we didn't find him very menacing or scary in Iceborne, but in like Generations, he like stand up on his two legs and he's like he's really scary, like, and he chases you and he always trying to eat you. Like, is there a favorite implementation of, I mean, Alatran, obviously I think Iceborne is by far the winner of the best implementation by far. But for Devil Joe or Savage Devil Joe, do you have a favorite version of him?
I totally agree with you. 100%. It's completely the other way around. Savage Joe in Generations Ultimate, the first time I fought it, I was, what the hell is this? They improved it from 3rd gen, and it is terrifying. It's really hard. The fight was hard as well. And then in Iceborne, it's become this training pole monster where you just hit it and it doesn't do anything because of the fact that with the claggers and the flinches, when you know when to hit Devil Joe during this or Savage Joe during this certain animation, you can topple it very easily. And if you see some speedruns, the monster just constantly, you can't even move anymore.
He's just tripping all over himself. Yeah, that was something. I think that was not just a Devil Joe thing in World. I think that happened to a lot of monsters in World, where you could just like chain flinch them into exhaustion, and there's nothing that they can do about it with certain weapons.
Except Alatran. Alatran's like, what? Try flinching me.
Hey, listen, I can trigger like 3 elemental flinches on Alatran with the gun lance. Okay, and that's with the gun.
Well,
lance.
that's because no one was using it, so they tweaked it so they would be very easy to use.
Yeah, it may be, but I was getting so many goddamn flinches off of Alatran, it was insane.
Okay, so Chris, I have one final question from her, which was, and I'm going to phrase this very specifically. Do you agree that Dodogama is overrated and not cute, or do you think that it's cute?
Oh, that's a hard question.
Oh, you see, the reason why this one's hard is because the community is going to nail him to a wall if he gives the wrong answer.
I mean, because, at this point, I feel really bad for Dodogama. Dodogama used to be our punching bag ever since we started doing basically the highest damage number project, because it has the highest weak point in World with 100 weak points. So I feel very bad for Dodogama, so I'm gonna say, he's very cute, just to make up for all the bad things we did.
All the abuse that you guys did to him.
So that just makes it that much worse that you keep doing these very evil things to this very cute monster.
So which part of his body is it the mouth that's the 100? Or?
It's the mouth if it's eating rocks. So there's basically, if it eats rocks, a little bit, the weak point goes up to like 70 or I think 70. And it can be in a state rock 2, which we call rock 2. When it eats a lot of rocks, the mouth starts glowing more significantly, and you see little sparks coming out of it. It glows really significantly, and then the weak point goes up to 100, which is the highest in the game. And it is basically a weak point where you don't lose any damage because it's a 1 multiplier basically.
That's crazy.
And then you put him.
It's going to be interesting for Rise.
He's a squishy boy, yeah.
By the way, it's going to be interesting for Rise, because in Rise there's no Dodogama, and the highest weak point I don't know. Should I reveal it? I'm not sure yet myself. We're still researching.
Let's not go for the highest weak point reveal yet.
Yeah. But it's very interesting. It's gonna change a lot. It's gonna change.
Interesting. Yeah, I was gonna ask, but I figured it'd be too much of a giveaway, or especially it's just exciting wondering what you guys are gonna be up to. I was like, what monster do you enjoy abusing so far in Rise? Is there a monster that's just really fun to just smack around?
Oh.
But if it's too giving, then you don't have to answer it.
I think you're gonna have to stick around and just check the videos. If you see the speed runs, you're gonna see. Yeah.
You're gonna see some monsters getting slapped like nobody's business.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and my team is amazing. Like my team, they're so good at the game. They make amazing speed runs. So I want to give a shout out to them. They're gonna get you guys covered with amazing content.
I just can't wait to see all of you guys. I can't wait to see the wire bug usage and just how crazy optimized and stylish it's gonna be. Probably.
Yeah.
Just like just Superman's all over the place.
It's so fast paced.
How do you do that?
Yeah, it's gonna be really fast paced. The speed runs.
Jesus.
Nice.
Yeah, I said it pretty much since we started looking at footage. I was like, this game is going to be way faster, and Capcom's going to have to come up with a way to like make up for the fact that we just have so much more mobility as hunters, and I'm still not sure how they're going to make that work, because particularly for Village, I feel like Village this time around felt way easier than any other Monster Hunter game before. Do you agree?
Yeah, it felt very easy. But I mean, just to comment on what you just said, I mean, with mobility, I think World, in a way, was slower than Generations Ultimate because you had absolute readiness, absolute evasion, all these things. And because World was made so well and was so fluent in the way it feels, nobody really complained. And I think if they do it the same way, they can go slower if they do it well. It's going to feel well. It's going to work out.
So here's a question to both of you guys, since you've had substantial time with the game so far. I'm sure this will change as we put in hundreds and hundreds of hours, but obviously the game is definitely moving more towards, at least for Rise, they're definitely going for more of a heavier, faster pace action. How do you like that coming from the previous games, which were a little bit more deliberate? We still have that deliberate action, but it's just much faster. And I know some people may like or may not like it. Do you have a preference, or do you prefer it being this fast action?
I mean, what I think is that they just improved overall how the game feels. It just feels less and less clunky from generation to generation. I think that's, for me, the biggest leap that they have accomplished. They constantly polish the gameplay. And if you compare now, I mean, it's first generation, the controls and how the game works. Then they improved the controls over the second generation, third generation. You know, every little gen brought new improvements. And now with World, it was the first time, in my opinion, it felt really, really good. And no matter if it's a fast or a slow Monster Hunter game, as long as they implement it well the way they do, I'm totally fine with it personally.
How
about you, Rurikhan? Which do you have a preference of?
I personally prefer Rise because the improvements that you have in Rise, that at least for my weapon, because I only played Gunlance. Gunlance just feels very fluid. It doesn't feel like a lumbering weapon as it's felt in previous games, even though you can get a Veda extender and there are tricks to moving around with the Gunlance, turning around, doing the long back hop, doing all of these things. In this game, I'm like, I don't really need to go to these this length of tricks to get around. I can just monsters over there, blast dash over there, or have a Veda Extender 3. I can usually get around pretty fine even without blast dash. So even though you can use those mobility tricks to kind of get there faster, it's not as needed as it's been in previous games, and that to me just feels better. So I prefer Monster Hunter Rise personally. But again, it's going to depend on weapons. But also from what I did with the Sword and Shield, I also prefer Rise because Sword and Shield's got so many cool things this time around. It's so crazy. Did you try out Sword and Shield at all, Chris?
Not yet.
Dude, some of those friggin'
That's what I love about
skills.
Monster Hunter, right? It's once you jump down a weapon, it's like there's 100 hours right there of stuff to do and fun to be had. And so it's like, ask me in 800 hours, if I've tried all the weapons. It's like...
That's true.
But so without getting into anything too specific, because I know we don't want to spoil anything, but I'm just kind of curious if there's anything that surprised you during your gameplay so far, of like an improvement to the game that maybe would not be as known. For example, like I've seen a lot of screenshots now that have been going public in previews where the UI looks just vastly different than the previous games. Like I really like how the UI looks. Like, is there anything like, there's like little tweaks with the UI, or maybe the loading's really fast or something that was just like, oh, this is really nice. Something that stuck out during your playthrough, more on a technical, I guess, sort of presentation standpoint than actual content.
I think what's really nice is you get around village really fast through the you can just open the menu quickly, go on the last page, and then you can fast travel between certain points in the map, and you usually don't have any loading screens in between them, if I remember correctly.
It's just boom.
It's instant, bam, and there's no animations where, like in Monster Hunter World, if you play the game a lot and you're gonna, even if for us as speedrunners, it's very significant. You constantly have to basically go back to the hub to eat something there, for example. And if you have to wait every time for the animation for the hunter to, send out the clutch claw to hang on to the wing drake or whatever it was in World, it's a certain 3 or 4 seconds that is every damn time the same thing. And for us, it's now really cool to just instantly bam, 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 bam. It just cuts to the next location.
Just get in there, right?
Yeah.
Nice and zippy.
That's good.
So is the loading on the multiplayer fast? Because I know the previews they showed, I think it was edited, so there was like no loading. It can't be that fast, I imagine, right?
No loading, you mean before the quest?
Like when they were joining someone's quest that was in progress, they edited it in a way that made it look like it was like damn near instant. But I imagine that there's going to be a loading for.
There has to be.
Just like going into a normal quest, right?
Yeah. That loading, I think I timed it in my review because I recorded the loading, and it was like 18 seconds to load into a quest. I don't know what multiplayer times are looking like because I didn't get to play too much during the multiplayer when the servers were turned on because I had some other stuff that I had to do around that time. So I played most of it solo, but I do think that the loading is significantly lessened when compared to World, particularly because just jumping into quests felt way faster. Jumping around through any point in Kimura is literally instant. There is no loading with the exception of the training room. For the training room, there's like a couple of seconds of load, but it's very, very small. And the biggest load time is when you jump into a quest, which was 18 seconds. And I think that is really fast, way faster than World in consoles.
If you're used to World PC, it's slow.
Yeah.
But I mean, to be honest, we have to acknowledge the fact that these are big maps. They don't just load one area on the Switch. And I think the loading times are fine.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, I think it's almost deceptively, like, I think the Ancient Ruins, I think we got really used to it because we played the demo so much, but looking at videos of the other maps, it feels like that's on the smaller end. Like the other maps are even bigger. Is that the impression that you get?
Oh, yes. Shrine. I mean, there's also the demo effect, which a lot of us played a lot of hours of Shrine Ruins in the demo. So naturally, that map is going to feel smaller. Even though it's not necessarily a small map, I do think it is smaller than some of the other maps. Particularly like Sandy Plains is deceptively large. Sandy Plains is huge. You can get lost in Sandy Plains. And I still don't know how to, sometimes there's a monster in a location. I'm like, do I go into a cave here? Like, do I go into a thing there? Like, what's the thing?
It is huge, but on a flat level, it is because there's less verticality. I think that's why, probably. And then the Shrine Ruins definitely has more verticality than the Sandy Plains.
So Sandy Plains will be the playground for the doggies to run around.
I'm not sure I agree with that, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah, because you have those big cliffs in Sandy Plains that you go all the way down. That's pretty vertical as well.
Yeah, but like you have a huge mountain in the middle of the Shrine Ruins map.
Yeah, but it's like
and then you have the cliffs also in the northern area of the Shrine Ruins. You also have very many hills.
But you have to look at Sandy Plains verticality as the opposite, where you start at the top, but then you can go way deep down.
Okay, a little bit too. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, exactly. But I think it's interesting that we both got different notions from these maps because it almost felt like when you're watching some of the videos that they were showing, some of the footage, it felt like those maps were smaller, right? when you were just before you actually got to play it, didn't you get the feeling that like from watching footage from the developers, the maps felt small, right? Yeah, but when you actually play it, they feel a lot bigger.
Actually, one thing about this, because you said things that surprised you positively, what happened with me was when I saw this one trailer in the Flooded Forest where they jumped from the pyramid down to the map, you saw a lot of trees and objects pop into the screen, and I found it very distracting. I was very worried, actually. But I did the same thing in the full game. It was way better. So
oh,
it was
really?
actually
Maybe they improved it.
They improved it somehow, so that was good.
Interesting.
And maybe because the sandy plains, I mean, maybe I was just thinking about the desert part in particular, which and I forgot about the caves a little bit. But honestly, what's also very interesting with the maps is there's so many areas that are clearly designed based on the third generation maps. There's so many areas which look so similar.
It's going to be a blast of nostalgia when we go back to it.
Yes, for people that played Try and Try You, you're going to have you're going to notice very many similarities in the maps.
Yeah, I've not seen any of the Sandy Plains outside the trailers, but so I'm going to probably be like in awe when I get there. If it reminds me of third generation, because I have so many good memories from that map. And
Sandy Plains is potentially one of my favorite maps right now. I really like it.
Same.
I think it looks really good. On the topic of stuff that I found very impressive, like from a UI standpoint, is I don't know how in depth I want to talk about this features, but the hunters notes this time around, Jesus Christ!
Right.
Go look at large monster information in those hunter notes. It's gonna blow your mind, the level of detail.
There you go, guys. So when you get the game, make sure to open those things up, because I know a lot of people don't, or when they did, they were disappointed by obscure information or stuff like that. But you're saying it's been improved?
Not this time around. This time around, yes. Massive improvements in the hunter's notes. Another interesting thing that I would like to bring up is because this is one thing that a lot of people don't tend to pay attention to, but run around Kimura for a little bit, explore it for a little bit. There's a lot of interesting things to mess around when you're in Kimura and Little Buddy Island and all of these places that they've made. It's really, really cool.
Yeah. That's true.
I'm very interested and can't wait to get into it tomorrow when the game's out. I'm gonna go. It's gonna be crazy. But so here's a question for you guys.
Some days off or?
Oh yes, I'm taking. My daughter goes on spring break starting tomorrow.
Oh.
So I'm taking an entire week off. So
nice.
we have this weekend and all of next week to play.
Nice. That sounds good.
And then on Saturday, we're actually going to Capcom has a cafe out here, not like the little bar one, but like an actual like full on cafe. And they're starting the Monster Hunter Rise version of the cafe tomorrow. We have reservations to go on Saturday afternoon.
Nice.
So she's got some money from some relatives for her birthday, so she's gonna buy probably lots of plushies and stuff like that. It's gonna be fun. So I was going to ask you guys about music in particular, because I know music has been I think most people I talk to are very happy with the musical direction for the game, but we have, and it's interesting because they said they were going to be adding vocals to pretty much every track. So I'm curious about how you guys felt about that, especially with not just the new tracks, but returning tracks. Overall, what do you think? We'll start, Chris, we'll start with you since you're our guest, and then Rurikhan, I would love to get your thoughts on this as well.
I love some of the music, the Sandy Plains theme again. I love it. It has such oriental vibes to it. I love it. And the vocals are interesting as well. So I've noticed, for example, if you're in the hub, you have this vocal version of the music playing. And as soon as you go into like your personal quarters where you can change, your gear, you have your housekeeper as well to talk to.
Yeah.
It's going to fade into the instrumental version. The voice goes away. I noticed that yesterday when I was trying to record some music to play as background music in one of my videos. So that's a nice touch. And I think the music is overall really well done, honestly.
It's the best soundtrack of any Monster Hunter game as far as I'm concerned. Like it's so good. Like you just get so many cool vibes. While just hanging out in Kimura, you got the Kimura Song of Purification playing in the background, which we already know sounds great. Then you go into the Buddy Island and it switches to a more like animated theme, like dun 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 dun. Na, na, na,
That's the one with that's the one with like the kids singing in the background, right?
Exactly. It's very, very good. I love that. And then when you hear the dango music with Yumogi being like all cute and stuff, that's also friggin' awesome. And then when you jump into the rampage and you get the track of the rampage just hyping you up with, the crescendo like dun 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 dun. Like it's so well done. Everything. Like I really, really can't get enough of Rise's music. And then even the arena music, which I've barely touched arena at this point, but arena music is so good. Like it's that music that you got whenever you were doing the Wyvern riding training in the demo.
Always good. Arena music has always been good in Monster Hunter games, in my opinion.
Yeah, but it's like, I don't know, there's just something about the music in Rise that I thought was really friggin' fantastic. It just keeps me hooked and it doesn't get old.
Yeah, and I mean they've always had they've always had like a theme that echoed throughout all the themes, but I think more than anyone, they're really applying the overall vibe to everything in this game, which is crazy. I'm really curious to hear how certain monsters songs, because I haven't listened to anything. So like, I don't know how, like, for example, the theme for Zenogre or Tigrex, like how they're going to sound with vocals. Because I love the way that they did Mizutsune, so I'm very curious if it's going to feel
vocals on those. I didn't notice that.
I'm just assuming from interviews they said that they would be adding vocals in some shape or form to every song.
I don't think there's vocals in every song. No, I don't think that's
okay.
correct.
Interesting.
There's a lot of songs. There's a lot of songs with vocals, but I don't think there's vocals in all of them. There are some monster songs that have vocals added in, but there's also a point where vocals are very subtle. Like for instance, if you listen to Proof of a Hero, they have that it's like that's vocals, but nobody's really singing, right? So
if they use it for monsters, it's subtle, but you can it's more you can hear it more clearly in the hub, for example, or in Kamura Village or in the Buddy Plaza. These are the locations where you have a lot of voice, and for monsters are toned down.
Okay, here's a really weird question for you guys, because this, I think, none of you guys are playing this game primarily portably. And I think because of the world situation, a lot of people aren't going to be, at least initially, doing so. But one of the things that I find, because I do play on the Switch portable, especially in bed a lot, is that the amount in which the unit will the fans will kick in and how hot it gets while it's stocked is a good indicator of how much battery it might consume when it's in portable. Does the Switch like get really loud or noisy when you play, or has it seems like it's performing pretty well? Or have you not even took notice?
I think it's performing pretty much as well as any other game that I've played on the Switch before. I think you're going to get battery consumption very similar to something like Breath of the Wild, just judging from how much the fans are turning, because unfortunately my Switch is getting a little bit long in the tooth, so the fans are starting to make a little bit more noise. And that is like, regardless of game, every game just starts to consume. I need to vacuum it or something a little bit to scoop up some of the dust. But I think it's fine. I don't think it's getting overly hot. Like it felt comfortable the entire time that I've played in portable mode. But yeah, I think you're looking at somewhere between 2.5 hours to 3 to 4 hours, depending on the brightness setting on your unit.
So I'm still traumatized from PlayStation 4 Pro. And how loud it was when we played the game.
So
like that. my first fear is my unit going to be so loud that I cannot play it and record at the same time? Otherwise, you'll just hear in the background. Or
no, you're good.
Okay,
you're good with that.
That's good to know.
I do want to get Chris's thoughts on Rampage mode, because that's like the new mode in Monster Hunter Rise.
Yeah. So I think Rampage is a fun thing. I think it's good that they experiment something new, and I think it's amazingly integrated in the story. However, I'm not sure when it comes to replayability long term, when it comes to endgame. There's a certain quest or a certain monster you can I think only do in a Rampage quest, and to me it's a bit sad. I would prefer to be able to do the monster in a regular hunt as well. And I think I'm not at the point where I play the game for months now, but I could imagine that I get to a point where I I can't see the rampages anymore if I have to do it over and over again.
Have you? I'm curious because have you played it in multiplayer? Because so far I've only done single player rampages.
Same.
That's. I'm really curious to see what you guys think about it multiplayer because, like, listen to Ruri. It sounds like it wasn't really designed with only one player in mind.
No, I don't think it was because there's this tendency for the monsters to just start focusing you when you're trying to jump on an artillery mount and they're just like two monsters shooting at you. The analogy that I made in my review, it's like having two bullfangos on top of you the whole time, except they're actually monsters and they're just like annoying you while you're trying to kill another monster that could be like a gate crasher or something like that. And then the first set of gates in Rampage feel like they're made out of paper. Like a gate crasher gets in there, does like 2 attacks, boom, done.
Yeah. I think if you know exactly what you're doing, you can avoid the situation that two monsters come at you, but you will not be able to deal or handle this optimally at the beginning, and you will feel overwhelmed a little bit, I guess, in solo. When I watched some of the content on Eric's Gaming, they were able to play it with 4 people. So it does look more fun.
It looks much
in
more
this
fun,
case. Yeah.
But it is really interesting though, like listening to you guys and the interviews, or not the interviews, the reviews and stuff that I've seen, that I think some people were a little worried that it would be so heavily integrated into the game that it would be like you'd be doing Rampage half the time and hunts half the time, but that doesn't seem like it's the case at all. Like Rampage just seems like an additional thing to enjoy. And you don't have to always do it if you don't want to.
Not always, but there's one certain monster I think that's only behind a rampage.
There are a couple of monsters.
A couple of monsters.
You have to do Rampage to get those.
Can you? Here's a weird question because I know you can't carve monsters when you beat them in a Rampage. They just kind of like go away.
Yes, you can.
I was going to ask, can you earn monster materials though?
Yes.
Like if someone really loves the Rampage, they love the tower defense, they're very good at it, they make a set for it. Like could they foreseeably use that to grind for monsters instead of going and hunting if they wanted to?
Yes. From my experience, yes, because say for instance you have a Rampage, and usually when you go on Rampage, they tell you which monsters are going to be involved in the Rampage, so you know which monsters constitute each wave. By the time you finish the Rampage, you're going to get materials for all of those monsters. The thing is, you have less control.
They all vanish when you beat them? Do they all just vanish?
Not all of them, because usually each Rampage has like one end monster. The end monster doesn't vanish.
The major threat or whatever they're calling it, right?
Not the major threat. The final monster of the Rampage. Every Rampage has one monster that sticks around in the end, and that monster you get to carve.
Interesting. We'll have to try to get we'll have to try to hook up and play.
You still get materials from all of those other monsters that were in the Rampage. The thing is, obviously you have less control. So like if you're farming for Rathalos materials, going on a Rampage that has like one Rathalos and a bunch of other monsters is not going to be the most efficient way to get those materials, but you will get some of them.
Interesting. Yeah, so I'm kind of curious, like, what happens if you cut off his tail? Like, can you actually carve the tail, or does it just disappear?
If it's the final monster, I would assume yes.
No. If it's not final.
If it's one of the other ones, I don't think
I don't think so.
I don't even know if you can chop those tails.
Yeah, same.
Because they die so fast.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting. So I guess this is the most generic and dumb question, but I just want to get some pure, unedited, sort of just raw emotion from you guys. Like, what do you think about Rise? Because obviously all of us were really hyped for this game. Not having now being able to play it, it lived up to the expectations. It's great. Or do you feel that, like some people say, it's great, it lays a good foundation, and I'm curious how they're going to build on it, or like, where are your thoughts overall?
Yeah, I've like
so far.
For me, I have to say I was positively surprised. I think it is better than I had expected. I had a lot of fun playing through the game. I think the gameplay is amazing, and I think also a lot of the monsters that they put in, a lot of the returning monsters, they redid some old monsters as well. They feel feel totally different, and they feel better in most cases. I'm really pleasantly surprised. At the same time, I just love the world a lot, and it was for me it was a high bar that they set themselves up.
Yeah.
And so for me, I think it's hard to, because I prefer Monster Hunter like on my PC and like this crazy 60 FPS, nice resolution, it's very fluent. But it's a great game, and I think if they add a lot of content to it, which I think right now I'm just skeptical when it comes to the overall size of this game. Is there going to be enough end game motivation there? This is a little bit of my concern right now. But let's see if they can manage this. I have high hopes for the game. Yeah, I think it's good.
Do you have? Are you looking forward to the eventual PC release for this?
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, obviously, it's not gonna like magically turn it into the fidelity of Iceborne, but it'll be much better. Yeah,
it'll be better. Yeah, and I mean, I think maybe you can comment on this better than I can, but I heard from somebody who has a little bit of knowledge in this field that the games look like they were made for something to expand upon later. So they look like they have something like a PC version in mind at a later date, where they, upgrade the textures, where they add more fidelity to it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, if they're already announced the fact that they're developing a PC version before the release, it's pretty telling, I think, at that point that, and I think the RE engine in general is the main strong point of that is it's, what's the right word in English? It's not expandable. Maybe that's the right word I'm looking for, but it's a very flexible engine for if they wanted to start doing
different systems.
Yeah, so it's very flexible in that regard. So I think that Net may have played a role into the idea that I think they may want to. And then of course there's all the rumors of perhaps a next generation Switch that might be more powerful. So I definitely think that it looks like whatever they've built it's going to be, and the fact that it runs so well on base Switch. I think that it gives them a lot of room to play with.
But Gaijin, by the way, I'm really curious on your thoughts about, because I think it's really odd for Capcom to announce the PC version like that in an interview. To me, why would they do this? Would it not make way more sense to just get the Switch launch, get a clean launch, then wait 2 months, and then make a big announcement for the PC version?
See, I think most game companies, because it looks like they're putting a good year in between it, right? Which I think is totally acceptable. Like if they were to come out and say it's a Switch exclusive game, and they sell it, and then a year goes by, and then they say, okay, we got a PC version, we're going to port it. I don't think anybody would complain, but I think they've got two issues, right? And I think the major one is that they had the data theft, and so there was a big data theft, and inside there was a lot of discussion about leaks, about potentially them looking into a PC version. That was never going to be a topic of conversation, I think, until that started being discussed. So I think there was pressure on that standpoint, and that just helped fuel the idea that the Western market is, because I think I don't want to sound like I'm against Western publishers. It's just my perception that a lot of Western publishers have abused gamers' trust over the last few years. And I think that gamers are very, and rightfully so in many regards, but I think they would be more upset being told that a game is exclusive when at that time there was plans to later on, whether it was a year or two later, to expand it on another platform. So I can totally see somebody inside the office saying, guys, instead of having a PR nightmare later where people say, I bought a Switch just for this game, because a lot of people who played World on Iceborne in the West, particularly, were very hardcore into home consoles, and that's what they pushed for. There's definitely a case where you could say that they're going to push people to purchase a Switch to buy the game, and then those people could react not positive if you were to tell them, half a year later, 8 months later, we got a PC port, and they would be like, I didn't have we're in a pandemic, I don't have the financials, you lied to me, and like, I think they probably just weighed all those things and said, you know what, it's probably better for us to just put it out there and let people know. Especially considering the fact that they said that Stories 2 is coming to the PC. I think that would have just brought up the bigger questions, like why isn't Rise on the PC? Now they've cleared all that before release date. I think it was a smart move, and they got it all done.
I particularly appreciate the transparencies because know that there were a lot of people that were like, why isn't this coming out on PC? Like, I just want to play this on PC. I don't want to go get a Switch. And initially we thought it wasn't going to come out on PC because, it's something that we haven't really seen before, something that's on a Nintendo console, a Monster Hunter game specifically on a Nintendo console that then goes on to PC was pretty much unheard of. So both me and Gaijin thought it wasn't even going to happen. But they just decided like, okay, before the game comes out, we'll just announce it so that people that want to get it for the PC, they don't have to go buy Switches, and boom, done. And Honestly,
the reason why I think it was I think it was damage control, and I think it was a smart but rushed decision on their end was the fact that they didn't announce it before pre-orders started. That would have been the more user-friendly way to do it, is to announce it before pre-orders, because not
good
every
point.
country allows you to pre-order a game and then get a refund if you decide, oh, I'll play stories in the summer and I'll get it on PC next year. Like, that tells me that it wasn't immediately a decision that they had from the get-go. So I think there was a lot of factors. But in the end, I think it works out better for everybody, because everyone knows now there's not going to be hard feelings. People have more informed choices of where they want to play the game. So, and I think the industry is still trying to get used to this idea of it's exclusive for console. What does that mean? It's like, because we're seeing more and more PlayStation games and Xbox games saying, okay, it's exclusive console for this, but it's also on PC. And I think that's going to be a norm going forward for a lot of companies. So I think the PRs are just, the teams are trying to figure out, can we say it's exclusive, but we also say it's on Steam? Like, I don't know,
Yeah.
So I think it's growing pains. I think the industry will grow and embrace it.
I did wanted to touch up on Chris's previous point of the end game situation in Monster Hunter Rise, which I also, when I finished the game, I was like, I was expecting more from that end game loop on release. And I already talked about this in my interview. There's obviously extenuating factors, like there's COVID, there's the data theft, there's a lot of stuff that the team had to go through. So, it's one of those things that I just want to see what happens in the first update at this point, to see how much content that is going to bring around and how much that is going to improve on the gameplay loop, because there's definitely a lot of stuff for people to do, a lot of quests and stuff. And if you're someone that plays more than one weapon, there's a lot to learn with switch skills and doing mixed sets and stuff like that. But it definitely feels that in terms of content, it is lighter than Monster Hunter World base game, for instance, which is something that a lot of people have been asking me, like, so do you think this has less end game than World? And I'm like, yes, World had more end game because you had tempered monsters and you had decoration
investigations.
Farming. Yeah, investigations. There was more stuff to do in World, I felt like, than in Rise in its current state. But
I just realized something. You guys can help me complete my bingo card.
okay.
Can you, like the Elder Melder, where there was a system where you can just trade and get gems and mantles like in rubies as
No.
if it's nothing, like it's candy. Can you do that or not?
No. At least I haven't seen it.
Yes.
Right, Chris?
Yes.
No, there's some other new ways of obtaining items, some new little mini games, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's different.
Yeah, I mean, Chris, me and Yuna, we call the Elder Melder Capcom, is what we call her. So we say, oh, I need to make this. It's like, hey, I'm going to go to Capcom and go have her give me one.
Oh, right. Because it's so easy to get so many items.
It's so easy.
It's very easy to get like plates and whatnot. You just do like your dailies and stuff like that. But yeah,
done.
No.
So very, your review was great, by the way. But anything to add with your final thoughts of just like, going into it, are you overall very satisfied? I mean, I think you and all the reviews as well have articulated this. There is still something that Capcom needs to come back and answer, which is some of the more heavier endgame stuff and some and additions, which, I have every faith in them that they will. They've always come through. But it is good to note that there's still some things that they need to come back and deliver on. But overall, it sounds like you love the game.
Overall, really Rise is potentially my favorite Monster Hunter game to date. It's just I want to see what the updates bring before I make that statement like flat out. But just in terms of how the weapons feel and the variety of things that you can do with a weapon, which is usually something that is very important to me, like the amount of builds that you can do, because that's something that I really like exploring. It seems like there's quite a lot there to mess around with. So that's going to keep me busy for a significant amount of time.
Yeah, for me, I think it's a great Monster Hunter game. I cannot say it's my favorite one. Also, I'm going to be curious to see how the first update will look like. Me and my team were obviously, from a speedrunning, from a more hardcore point of view, we are really hoping for them to be serious when it comes to balancing and to look at the weapons
rebalance
properly.
and stuff.
And if they all do that, we're gonna have to wait and see. And if yes, that would be great.
Yeah, here's a question for you from a speedrunner perspective. Is it exciting or is it frustrating when games make adjustments and they kind of change the meta? Is that a fun thing? It gives you guys stuff to explore? Or is it kind of like we just spent all this time figuring this out and now you're changing it on us? Like, what's your feelings in general towards that type of stuff?
I think, I mean, I'm not sure if I understand the question correctly, but
Like if they were to like if you were to spend like let's say there's a current version of the game, there's certain skills and there's certain things that are optimal. In further updates, obviously they'll change stuff like they did in World, where some skills become more important, less important. New weapons come that change sort of like the meta of what you want to do. Is that a fun thing for speedrunning, or is it frustrating that we just spent hundreds of hours perfecting it, and now you give me a weapon or a skill that now I have to redo it all?
I think it's both. It's in a way, it's frustrating because imagine you get a super good run where you grind for a lot, and then a new update comes out, and way better gear allows you to get a better time. So in a way, it can be frustrating to having to redo your perfect run. But in a way, it keeps it interesting as well because it constantly opens new ways of doing strategies that maybe wouldn't have been possible before because of certain gear and not enough damage output previously. It wasn't possible. And I mean, speedrunners always want to stay motivated, I guess. And I think ultimately it is a good thing. I think from right now, when I look at Rise, it looks like a very base version of the game where you cannot get that many skills yet, comparable to World. And so I think there's definitely room to expand upon with future updates. And we see that with Iceborne now. At the end, we eventually ended up in a situation where with Fatalis gear, you end up having all the skills,
everything.
So we might see something similar this time around.
Yeah,
interesting.
Hopefully.
Well, my fingers crossed for the eventual, and I think it's obvious that we'll probably get an ultimate expansion for this game. And it sounds like they've done a hell of a job making a new base. And
you know what
I'm excited to play it.
My theory is this big hall in the middle of Komura, which this is my theory. This is going to be the hub for Master Rank or G Rank.
Nice.
But we'll see.
There's a whole a structure that we don't know. We don't know what it does. What are they doing inside there?
Yeah,
they're like, we're developing the game.
They just have a big fire in there, and that's it.
They're working on G rank. Give them a break. Oh, so here's a quick question: do you prefer the terminology Master Rank or G Rank? I've been asking everybody this. Or does it not matter?
To me, it doesn't really matter.
G rank, G rank, the gangster rank. What do you mean? Of course,
it's. What do you mean?
It's G rank.
Honestly, it is literally half and half. Most people don't care. Some people prefer Master Rank because it's easier to understand because G is just G.
For
and
the
some
West,
people like myself,
love. I think for the West, it's easier probably. Yeah. I mean, for Japan, it made sense because they had always the G version, and for us, it was Ultimate with G rank. So it always felt a bit off. Yeah. Right. So also makes sense, I think.
Anyway,
awesome. Well, I mean, if I ask you guys any more questions, I'll be spoiling myself before I get to dig into the game and play it. But this has been really fun, just picking your guys' brains a little bit about what you thought, and I'm so excited to see your guys' content because I'm fans of both of you guys. So I'm taking a back seat, and I'm being a gamer now, and I'm going to enjoy the game, and then I'm sure once I get through the base of it, then I'm going to be the creator in me is already. I'm already starting to write weapon tutorials before I've touched the game, just laying the framework, like. Nice. I'm going to be excited, but in the meantime, you guys are going to keep me very satisfied, and I'm going to have a lot of fun. So thank you for all the work that you guys do.
Thank you guys for having me.
And thank you very much for coming to the podcast, Chris. We know that you are kind of like stretched on time. Chris is very busy. He's got to go speed run something right now. So
I speed on my sleep last night as well.
Exactly. He sped run his sleep to come hang out with us. So, Chris, thank you very much. Is there anything in particular that you would like to shout out? There's obviously going to be links to all of Chris's stuff in the description of this video, but go right ahead. The floor is yours, sir.
I mean, if the YouTube algorithm decides to, reveal our content to you guys, it'll happen. So That's all good. I mean, you guys can find me on YouTube. I'm with Team Darkside, making cool videos as always, and that's all I want to say.
Yeah, I got to also
Sounds
give
great.
I got to also give you a very special thanks because Chris, you actually retweeted what ended up being one of my most viewed videos for Monster Hunter World. Not sure if you remember that.
Really?
It was really funny because I made this one video where I said, "Don't repeat quests, do investigations." And you retweeted that.
Really?
And then after the community started flooding in, that video just got like so many views, and I was like, "What the hell is going on?"
I'm sure it's not because of me, because my Twitter is not that big. Gaijin Hunter is way bigger on Twitter, for example. But it's cool because I remember also when Gaijin Hunter was like the biggest creator for me, it was somebody to look up to as well, and he retweeted some of my videos. It's always cool, so I'm happy that I could help you out in a little bit. But I'm happy that video
really
did
cool.
well. Yeah, it's cool.
But
nice.
that is going to be it for episode 17 of the Third Fleet podcast. We'll see you guys in the next one. Stay strong, stay safe,
And happy hunting.
Bye bye.